So when we bought this farm a couple of years ago, this building was used as a machine shed. It just had tractors and there was even a boat stored inside of it. It was a greasy, dirty, dark, dingy mess. I'll insert a few photos here so that you can see some of the before. I wanted to give you a tour today because we have finished the back half of the building, and I just wanted to show you around before I start making a mess again. So this half of the building I have shown in a previous video, but a few things have changed because I did move the loom out of this room and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to show you what's happened. The long arm is still in the same place that it was. It's in a good spot there. It works. The rest of the room has been rearranged just a little bit. Some of the storage I had on one side of the room moved to another. So, for instance, the pie safe there actually was on the other side of the room, and I've moved over here, and it now only holds my quilting books, which part of the deal with getting this whole building together was to bring all of my craft things together in one spot. And when you do that, it's when you have them tucked away here and there, you have a lot more than you realize when you finally get them together. So I probably don't need any more quilting books, but that won't stop me. The plastic bins here on this shelf are my works in progress or kitted quilt projects, and that's kind of how I limit myself. I can't start anymore or kit up any more quilts until I empty one of those. It sort of works. Not always, but it sort of works. Back in the back part of the room, there's miscellaneous things in this tall cabinet. Soft things on top, like batting and, well, I guess I could just show you. It's interfacing batting, that sort of stuff. Things that if I drop it on my head, it won't kill me. And the bottom is random storage of things that don't fit anywhere else. I have my second sewing machine, my small sewing machine that I take to retreats and things like that in that bag. I just keep it kitted up all the time. The fabric in these are actually for rag rugs. And I will show more about that in just a minute. The tops of these cabinets have changed a little bit. I have things that I plan to make. They're like wooden boxes and things like that goes along with my embroidery and cross stitch and painting and all those kinds of things. This is just a stash of goodies. This is my stash of paints and whatnot. There's all kinds of stuff. This needs some improvement as far as use of space, but for now, I'm just happy to have it in a cabinet and not in a box somewhere. This cabinet with the drawers was in the middle of the room before, and it had fabric on top of it. I've used it as a ironing board on many occasions. I took the fabric back off. The drawers hold all of my things like zippers and snaps and elastics and stabilizers and all that kind of stuff. I'm using it now, just the top for kind of a coffee or tea station. The top has some of my cups and whatnot. I don't really have much on the top shelf yet, but if I wanted to stash some food back here, that's where I would do it. I'm sure I will continue to fill up the space it's nice to have empty space. This side of the room, I've brought in a table and chairs. I've used this table and chairs in multiple locations throughout the house. It's a folding table. It works great. I can't part with it. I love the chairs. It's a cute little table. It's great for if I want to sit down maybe and plant a quilt or something like that. Or if I have friends over and we want to sit down and have lunch while we're sewing. So that's my plan. I've redone this cabinet a little bit. It now has all of my homespuns on one shelf, all of my solids on another, 30s feed sacks and prints on another, and then the bottom has some miscellaneous, what do you call that? Like novelty fabrics and things like that, things that don't match any of those other categories. The majority of my fabric is Civil War reproductions, and I keep all of that inside these here. And I forgot to show the other side of that because there's still a little bit more, but mostly this is my scrap storage. So for the quilters out there, we all know that we have scraps that breed at night like rabbits, and I just decided the easiest way to deal with them is to get their own color coordinated bin, and so I just throw all the pinks in there, the reds in there. I don't sort them by size. I know a lot of people do. I tried that once, but that's not really how I work. I work by color. So it's easy for me to just take that whole bin over to a table, dump it out, and sort through and get what I want. The drawers on top, the spool cabinets are full of, this one it has wool, and some of my Valdani flosses or threads and things like that. This holds antique samplers that are in the midst of being reproduced and things like that. Let's see if we have any that you can see. So they're projects more or less. This one has my fancy floss for the cross stitchers, you know, all about fancy floss. And then these are extra DMCs sorted by number, like all my 900s in one and all my 700s in another and that sort of thing. So that's kind of it. I have that little drying rack, has some hand sewing projects that I need to get to one of these days. In the center before, I only had this one table. Library tables are great for to use as cutting tables for me because I'm only 5'1" and they're usually the exact height that I need to be ergonomically correct. And so I just had this one table and the table or the little cabinet with the drawers before set up, and it was hard for me, I was used to having a little bit more room for a cutting table. So underneath is another library table, a smaller one that I was using as a desk inside the house. I brought it out, and then my husband built the top years ago for another building that we had, and I just brought that back in, set it on top. It wasn't exactly level with the other table, so we put some foam insulation in there underneath of it to kind of level things out a little bit. It doesn't need to be exactly the same size, but I can pull all the rulers and that off and spread something out if I need to. But this size cutting table pretty much works for me. The ironing table's still where it was, still kind of the same setup. I like having something to hang my starch and water and that on. I have a small collection of mini children's irons. Still boggles my mind that people actually gave children irons that actually worked and were hot to play with. But It's a different world now. The frames at the top of the room are my collection of frames for framing cross stitch and that sort of thing. It's grown since the last time I've shown it. A little bit over onto this wall. I'm not all the way around yet, but I keep telling myself, you know, okay, you have plenty at this point. You don't need to pick up anymore when you see them, but you know, I have that whole spot there. Might as well finish that wall, right? Anyway, so my design wall is just a couple pieces of insulation board wrapped with a piece of batting and stuck up on the wall. And I'll tell you, as a quilter, if you don't have one of these, you need to figure out how to get one, because this is the best thing in the room, in my opinion, is to be able to lay out your blocks and that sort of stuff on the wall and not on the floor where an animal will, or child or whatever, or on I used to have to do it on a bed. It's just so much better to have it on the wall. Even if you have to go get one of those that you have to put away every time and then bring it back out and it springs out, even if that's what you have to do, do it, because you will love it. Best thing. There's my vintage 201 Singer that I do actually use sometimes. It can sew through anything. And then this is my sewing desk. This is for the quilters that haven't maybe seen this already. My husband built this for me. I saw a table like this in a book. I think it's called Quilting Spaces or something like that. It's a book that talks about how to organize your sewing spaces. And there was one, and I think it was like painted green or something, but I absolutely loved the way it was set up. I like having the pull-outs on either side of me for when I'm, you know, I can cut on one side, iron on the other whenever I'm doing my piecing. And the drawers are just enormous and they hold all kinds of stuff. This holds patterns and that sort of thing. There's thread just above it, all kinds of other stuff on this side. This table is the absolute best. I've had it for years and years and years. I used to have a different sewing machine in it, so you can see that I had it cut differently. But I absolutely love this. The back can go down if I need to conserve space, but then it can pop up for when I'm doing a quilt, and it's just fabulous. I love it. I got a couple different quilts up on the wall. Since I moved things around, I have more doll quilts that will be going on the other side of the room too, because it looks a little bare over there right now compared to the other wall. Not that I need to cover every inch. Another thing that's changed is the things on top of the cabinets up there. I do have a small collection of toy sewing machines that I have up there now. I used to have spools and that sort of thing. And some of my spool holder collection is up there. But what's really new in this building is this whole back section. So I'll throw up again some pictures of what this back section used to look like. It was just an empty shell, concrete, ugly, had holes everywhere. All kinds of critters living in it. It was bad. So these doors are new. There was like barely any light or anything back here, but now we built a closet back there behind the desk. You can see, which I'll take it and I'll show it to you in a little bit. That's where all my wool and just general storage and stuff is. I set up the desk area for my, I'm a little bit of an amateur photographer and all kinds of stuff like that. So I wanted to bring that all out so that I do all my creative stuff and kind of in one spot. The biggest part of the room though is fiber arts. I am a spinner, weaver, you name it. I do it kind of thing. And So the main thing is being able to have my looms up so that I can use them whenever I want. All of my yarns are back there along the wall. This cabinet over here is full of wool. Also, it's also where the cones and that sort of thing ended up. But I do a lot of wool applique or rug hooking, and so this is where it's full of wool. Lots of things down at the bottom as well. More kits and things like that of wool down there. We bought these two cabinets at completely different times. I'm a big Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace person, and so that's how we found these cabinets. And this one was in really bad shape. Part of the top was actually missing. There was a huge gap on the top, and it had oil that had been spilled all over it. And so I had to do some antiquing on that one with the finish in order to get it to look halfway decent. But I like how they kind of work together. I just put a clear finish on this, and I think it's fine. This cabinet holds underneath some of my smaller looms, like I have a tape loom and a smaller rigid heddle, stuff like that, cutting equipment, all kinds of that sort of stuff, and plenty of space to lay things out and work with, and just more weaving equipment here and there. This has more weaving stuff, things for weights, bobbins, that sort of stuff. The layout of the weaving part, I don't need a ton of room, really. I just need to be able to get back there. And so I did, I've done this before. I painted the wall with chalkboard paint in order to have in that warping board space, I can write down my notes of what it is that I'm trying to do, you know, how many of whatever, so that I don't lose the sticky note, and or if I get interrupted and I come back to it, I know where I am and that sort of thing. So that's why that's painted black. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done in this room, but you get the idea anyway. And if you're a weaver, you understand where I'm headed with all of this. This is my main loom. It's a Glamacra loom. They don't make this size anymore, but it's a perfect size for me. I really can't go any wider. Like I said, I'm only 5'1". I only have, my wingspan is very limited. So anything wider than this, actually, I'd have to move back and forth on the bench, and I don't really care for that. So this is the perfect size loom for me. And then I just have a smaller rigid heddle, and I have a small wolf pup. I'm actually considering selling the wolf pup. If you're interested, let me know. I may keep it. I don't really need it. I don't use it enough to probably justify it. But then every time I think I'm gonna sell it, then I think, no, I should really keep it. But anyway, maybe someday. The rest of the room, I brought all of my books, whether it's weaving or spinning or knitting or samplers or whatever. They're all in one spot finally, which is just crazy. I didn't realize I was gonna have 3 bookshelves full of books, but I do. I have a Canadian production wheel here that I use and love. It's absolutely fantastic. Back over in the corner, I have a quilting hoop that I love. It's fantastic if I want to do a little bit of hand quilting. There's my rug frame, my Shuck spinning wheels. This cabinet does have a TV in it, and then at the bottom it's all my spinning equipment and that sort of thing, carders, whatnot. I forgot, over in the gray cabinet, it also has my drum carder. A couple more looms up at the top. I have a little bit of a antique sampler or vintage sampler collection with houses. If it has a house and it's a vintage sampler, right? I'm starting to collect those, so this will grow. I actually have a couple more to go up there, I just don't have them framed. And as we spin around, we did install a wood burning stove, which I absolutely love. This is maybe my favorite part. It is wonderfully cozy in here. I still have things to hang on the wall, whatnot. You'll notice there's a cat box. I've recently acquired another feline. More about that in my next video. And then this is the closet. We used an antique door, and we have another one that's gonna go up between the two rooms. I'm big into recycling and whatnot. I don't know where this came from, but it was number 12. This is my favorite part. The needing to get all of my wool stash in one spot so that I could find what I was looking for. I had this just stuffed in every little hole in the house, and it was crazy. So I really haven't done a lot of spinning in the last 2 years because number one, I didn't have time. Number two, I can't do it in the house because of Agnes, my very young cat, and I couldn't find it. So all the stuff at the top, a lot of that is from my sheep that I used to have, that has been saving. I have some special projects planned for those. At the very, very top, there's just random stuff. I think there's some alpaca fleeces and whatnot. I had an infatuation with some of the colored roving for a while, still do, and that's what I like to spin the most, so there's quite a bit of that. There's a lot of Three Waters Farm over here. I have a couple more of those boxes, the fabric boxes, to put in here sooner and later. And then a lot of this is yarn over here on the, actually it's all yarn. A lot of it hand spun, some of it commercial. And then the other side is just random craft things. There's rug making things up at the top, basket making things, some general craft, photography stuff, more general stuff. This is where I keep my my linen for cross stitch and whatnot, these boxes here. And I think that's about it. I think I hear my husband coming into the front door, so I should probably end this and get busy making a mess in this space.